for the fifth.
Where did you dig up that old fossil?
Going to Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
That's no move.
We're all fine here now, thank you. How are you?
Welcome to the Star Wars News Podcast. I'm Dan Vadabunker.
And I'm Kenton Larson.
And we're just going to listen to the clips. Now that we've got this endgame ugliness out of the way.
Endgame ugliness.
Well, the endgame is done. It's ended. It's over. By the way.
Yeah, with another trailer for another film. Spider-Man.
Is it? Oh, I haven't seen that.
Well, yeah, there's a new Spider-Man trailer, and which features Peter Parker himself, the actor, speaking in his homeland accent, which it turns out to be England. Did you know that actor who plays Spider-Man is British?
He was Billy Elliot in the film Billy Elliot.
I forgot.
That's how long he's been around, that guy. I forgot, anyway. Tom Holland.
Wow, so he wears tights in every role. The trailer starts with him going, "Do not, hello, mate." No, he doesn't do that. That's what is that? No, that's Australian.
G'day.
Good day, mate.
Knifey spoony.
That's not a knife.
Anyway.
So he starts off and he says, "Do not watch this if you haven't seen Endgame." And I have seen it, so I watched it, and just basically calling Endgame when you have a movie that essentially picks up where it left off. It's kind of funny.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I thought, it seems like now 2 weeks out from the release of Endgame that all bets are off as far as spoilers are concerned.
Yeah.
I was going through YouTube kind of videos with Luke yesterday, and every single video that was up there about Avengers Endgame had spoilers, had absolutely awful spoilers. So,
wow. And
it's ones like even the thumbnail of the video gives away a huge plot point. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What are you doing? How can you do that? These people are just awful.
See, I haven't. I have seen it, of course, but I still would not have been spoiled because I'm sort of, once you get into the swing of trying to avoid spoilers for movies, it's not too hard to do.
No,
you sort of figure it out as you go along.
Yeah.
I don't look at Flipboard, 2 weeks after until I've seen the movie.
Well, yeah,
that's
right.
That's a bad one. The algorithm spoils it.
Yeah, that's right.
But and most I noticed of the stuff on Flipboard now is just like how much has Endgame made. It tends to fall into that category. The money that Endgame's making.
It just dethroned Titanic as far as the biggest film of second. Now it's the second biggest film of all time after Avatar still. But I think it's gonna surpass Avatar. It's probably gonna, if it keeps going. It's pretty close to Avatar as it is.
I saw another article saying it's actually the other distinction it has is being the largest drop off in film history from week 1 to week 2. But the only reason it's the largest drop off in history is because it made the most amount of money in history in the first week. So it's kind of funny. Depend from a certain point of view.
There we go.
As Ben Kenobi once said.
Way to tie it back into Star Wars.
So in other words, that's right. In other words, the Marvel film is a giant box office disappointment, which Star Wars is sure to topple.
Yes, and we're going to talk a little bit later in the podcast about the new release dates that they've talked about, the next kind of chapter of the Star Wars saga, or whatever saga it is, because it's certainly not going to be the Skywalker saga. We'll talk about, of course, Peter Mayhew passed away this week, and lots of great tributes to him. But first, of course, we're going to start with our favorite segment, This Week in Star Wars Clickbait.
Ojaba. What? How? What are you talking about? Huh? What? Goodness gracious me.
And actually, you know what I do now to find Star Wars Clickbait? I go to fatherly.com because I noticed that that's where most of these are coming from. And I just search Star Wars, and you can actually find a bunch of clickbaity headlines. Like, this is just what they do at fatherly.com.
Well, we're going to be talking about the new Star Wars trilogy they just announced. And how many weeks of clickbait have we had on Star Wars goes on hiatus?
Oh, no, I've not seen that.
There's lots. There's probably 30 articles about that I noticed popping up on Flipboard over the last couple of weeks. And then it was in one tiny announcement, it basically shot all of those to hell. Every single person who...
I wonder if they wait till a good amount of outlets have put themselves out there by saying that stuff.
Seems like it.
I don't think anybody cares if they turn out to be wrong. That's the thing about clickbait, is that nobody gives a crap.
Just keep clicking.
Yeah. So this headline says, deep data reveals which Star Wars character is the biggest killer. So someone compiled a bunch of data, whatever you want to say. You say tomato, about Star Wars, all the Star Wars films. And they looked at, for example, how many droid characters there are versus how many female characters. How many do you think? Which are there more of? Do you think
At this point, throughout the entire
throughout the entire series?
Oh, that's tough.
Droids
I'd say a 3-1 for droids.
It's actually no. It's not 3-1. It's about there's 118 droid characters and 86 female characters.
Oh,
but they're working on that. That's part of the issue with the original trilogy and all those early films. And that was not just an issue with Star Wars. It was an issue with Hollywood as a whole and just films not having as many female characters. But they're absolutely addressing that. How many female characters are in this new movie? There's tons.
In the new one, yeah. Oh
there's
yeah.
Lando's daughter, right?
Jana.
There's
Jana.
Rose, there's Rey. There's every movie they're introducing new female characters.
There's Kerry Russell.
That's right. Yes,
playing herself. I believe.
Playing Rey's mom.
Yeah.
We don't know. We don't know. So who do you think is the biggest killer? Now here I just haven't had a chance to read the deadliest character. Who is directly murdered the most people in Star Wars?
Huh. By direct action?
Yeah,
it's not like if you count Luke blowing up a Death Star.
Well, there's that. Yes, that's the thing. Like,
does that include?
No, we're talking about. So that's the deadliest character business is focusing on people who actually killed. So Darth Vader is the answer. Darth Vader is killed.
In on
films,
1-to-1 combat.
Yeah, took out 3 dark side followers and 8 Jedi. That's including his kills as Anakin. This is actually an interesting article. I'll say just the clickbait.
Wait a sec. This is the opposite of this week in clickbait.
Yeah, sorry. This is actually turning into.
This is actually good.
Yeah, sorry. That's now we're the clickbait. Now
that's right.
The
we are the clickbait.
Oops.
We've become what we detest.
But yeah, if we're talking about indirect murders, then Grand Moff Tarkin, Luke Skywalker, and General Hux are the 3 top. So Grand Moff Tarkin because he blew up Alderaan, Luke because he blew up the Death Star. What did General Hux do? What did he blow up?
Oh, well, that solar system.
Oh yeah, he absolutely.
The thing that nobody understood in The Force Awakens.
They fired off that giant Death Star and killed a bunch of different stars.
That's the part where the whole audience went, "Oh no, a bunch of people we've never met before."
And it didn't look like much. It just looked like these big streaks in the sky. Like they didn't even show us a close up of it or anything, or even like they could have humanized that a bit more by showing us like the city and then like people looking up at the red light in the sky and then boom, that kind of stuff. Like showing some real people behind that, but they didn't.
I always thought that scene would be better. Remember lawn darts when we were kids?
Yeah, of course.
Lawn darts often there was
such a safe toy.
Kids would play with them, and then there'd be a game at a certain point where you'd get bored with them, where you throw them straight up in the air and everybody runs for their lives because this thing's coming down somewhere. I always thought that would have made Starkiller Base better, where the shot comes up and then they're like, "Wow, look at that!" and then it's just like turns around, starts coming back at the planet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, run! I always thought that. Why doesn't anything ever misfire? Why doesn't anything ever not work the way it's intended?
Well, it does, and then like the Falcon never goes to light speed when it's supposed to. It always goes.
Oh, that's true. That's a good example of something that doesn't work. But that's
because it's a piece of junk, right?
That's right. That's like really
fastest hunk of junk in the galaxy.
Is that the only thing that doesn't work the way it's supposed to?
I'm sure there's other stuff.
There might be more.
Yeah, I'm not thinking. Oh yeah, the speeder. Anakin has problems with the speeder in the pod race.
I'm pretty sure the Emperor has ED.
That's right.
So there's a few things.
Some other interesting facts, and then we'll move on. So there are 1,606 Wookiee sounds in all the films combined, with Solo, a Star Wars story, having the most, of course.
Wow.
Chewie's got the most screen time in that one, which is interesting. Film with the most aliens. You want to hazard a guess? Most aliens in one of each.
A New Hope.
Nope. Phantom Menace. Think about that pod. Think about that pod race scene. It's just like,
of course,
so many aliens. The most droids. It's not the question. It's
the cartoon droids? No.
No, think about the worst scene in all of Star Wars. Your most hated scene that has a lot of droids.
The Droid Factory.
Yeah, of course.
So Attack of the Clones.
Oh, is that no? Oh, sorry, Revenge of the Sith. It says Revenge of the Sith.
Which one? What am I thinking of?
No. Is that Droid Factory? Isn't Attack of the Clones? Isn't it?
Yeah, it's Attack of the Clones.
So I'm thinking of the wrong one.
Oh, okay.
But
I thought that one was saying it.
The answer is Revenge of the Sith. And it's interesting. Here's another one. The most limbs lost with 8. In eight limbs are lost in Revenge of the Sith, but Vader actually loses 5 limbs across all the films all by himself.
Because he keeps getting...
Because he loses his hand twice. He lost his he lost it as Anakin in a fight with Count Dooku, and then in a fight with Luke in Return of the Jedi. So he lost his right hand twice.
Well, one of those was Anakin, who not
Well,
Darth
it's the same
Vader.
person. Anyway, this
Well-
is interesting. So this has turned out to be not clickbait. It's turned out to be very interesting, and I will post this link on our social media so people can check this out. So it's kind of cool, breaking down the numbers of Star
The
Wars.
clickbait that bit us.
There we go.
That's no moon. It's a space station.
It's too big to be a space station.
Very bad feeling about
Presence I've not felt since.
He says he's found the main controls to the power beam that's holding them
Let's go
together.
alone.
I want to go
Your
with you.
destiny lies along a different path. Force will be with you always.
Obi-Wan is here. I must face him alone.
Another news story that I thought was interesting in Star Wars is somebody released a reimagined fight scene between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader this week.
Oh.
Did you see that?
No, I did not.
It's really cool.
How did they do it?
Well, they did it with a combination of like CGI, actors in costume, and it's all really, really high end, really well done. Like it looks like it should be in the movie. There's some
From A New Hope?
yes,
That scene?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's kind of an underwhelming scene, and we've gone to great lengths to explain why Obi-Wan just kind of gives up and lets himself be killed. But this one reimagines it as an actual fight between the two of them going on over the course of a few minutes, and then they end up in the hangar where Luke sees him before he dies. But and they cut in footage from the original film as well, and they do the thing where they put the face of like what's his name?
Alec Guinness?
Alec Guinness over top of, like, you can tell it's a bit of CGI there. It doesn't always look super realistic. Like, I think if they had a higher budget, they could have done a better job of it. But it is still really cool to see how that could have happened if they'd had more money or time or budget. It's interesting that Lucas chose not to redo that scene that he could have.
Well, but I as I say, I don't think that's the point of that scene. The
Yeah.
point is about they haven't seen each other in a long time, and they're having it's a conversation in which they're kind of in which the lightsaber just makes sure nobody tries anything funny. But I think it's more about the conversation than it is about the giant fight. That's not the intent of that.
This
scene.
is very
I
much
don't think it ever was.
This is very much in the spirit of like the Darth Vader scene from Rogue One, where he just kicks everyone's ass, and Obi-Wan is obviously very good as well, and he runs around. He's he's very, very spry for a man of 55 or however old he's supposed to be in A New Hope, because he's in his late 30s, and then 20 years later, 18 years later.
Well, as I said, the only explanation is the Tatooine sun.
That's right, exactly.
Because if you look at Uncle Owen, there was a similar issue.
That's right.
Where he's like, I've got my whole life ahead of me in Revenge of the Sith.
18 years later, he's looking awful.
He's old and grizzled.
That's right.
He's like, that old hermit.
Yeah.
Don't listen to a word he says. You hear me?
I need your help this year, Luke. You can go to the academy next year. Anyway.
That's right. You can go to the academy anytime, especially with this college admission
But it's
scandal.
a whole nother season. Look, it's just one more season. I don't know. What are they saying again? It's a whole nother year. Anyway.
There's a big debate about seasons.
How much time are we talking about here?
Yeah, how much time?
Right.
What are we?
And meanwhile, what we didn't know at the time was that Owen is just going, you don't want to join those evil, evil bastards, the Empire, because they're evil.
Well, he also doesn't want you to join the rebellion. He doesn't want you to do either one of those
Yeah,
things.
he wants them to stay quiet on
He's
Tatooine.
got some moisture evaporators that need a fixin'.
That's right.
That's what he cares about.
All right.
However, how does Uncle Owen feel about the Star Destroyer and the Rebel blockade runner in their atmosphere? How does he feel about that? Like, we sort of don't get a sense of that.
Well, we don't ever see, like, in the original cut, there was a shot where Luke looks up and sees it in the sky, but I don't think that never made the final cut of the film. And so we don't ever know that happened, that they were aware that happened, right? If you look at those deleted scenes with the one where Luke's wearing the hat and that kind of stuff,
I love that scene.
you'll see that. He'll look up and you'll see the thing. And we have now since seen lots of examples of ships coming out of hyperspace in, like, you see it from the surface of the planet, like the Star Destroyers coming in. It looks really cool. But yeah, we didn't see that in the first film.
You must understand I need you here, Luke. But it's a whole nother year. Look, it's only one more season.
Yeah, that's what she said when Biggs and Tank left.
Where are you going?
Looks like I'm going nowhere.
They've announced the next kind of batch of Star Wars films.
So much for the hiatus, as we
Well,
said.
there will be a hiatus. There will be a 2-year hiatus. 3 years, really, I guess. So we have Rise. Now, I keep getting the name wrong. Is it the Rise of Skywalker?
Yeah.
I always say Rise of the Skywalker.
See, I had that problem too, and then I just kept hammering it into my head. It starts
The
with
Rise
the.
of Skywalker.
And the is only once.
Right.
So not
And we're
the
talking
rise
about-
of the Skywalker.
But it seems like we're talking about a singular Skywalker. In
I
my
don't
opinion.
know.
Okay. Anyway,
the
this
best Star Wars titles have double meanings.
Yes, that's true. So so that's coming out this December. We're just like 7 months away, I think ish. So after that, the next film will not be released until December of 2022. So 3 years. 3 years later.
2022, and what are the other two?
And then after that, it's going to be every 2 years. So it's 2024 and 2026. So they are really pulling back on this. They are not doing the every year like they did, right? They realized that they oversaturated the market with Star Wars.
The anthology films that have already come out are going to be weird curiosities in the future, I think, because I don't think we'll see that again.
I think that was a failed experiment.
Yeah, I think so. I think,
Okay.
well, no, that stuff will just go to Disney Plus from now on.
Right.
I don't necessarily think it was a failed experiment, but I think that was Disney testing how much appetite on what basis there is for Star Wars.
They were trying to see if they could go the Marvel route with it, right? Marvel
Of
is 2 or
course.
3 movies per year. People accept that. People eat it up with like one big one, meaning the Endgame or whatever. But and they thought they could do that with Star Wars, but they just can't.
Well, I mean, yeah, when the last film comes out in December, we'll have the chat about what happened in the new era of Star Wars. How did it all go down?
This is like the end of Phase 1, basically.
Right. How did it all go down? What worked? What didn't work? Then we'll know if, a few of the things that we've talked about, whether they, come to pass, whether those things that irritated us or don't irritate us anymore at the end, or whether they they wrap it up in a way that's befitting of all of the movies that have sort of led up to this point, and what works and what doesn't work, and where it should go moving forward. But I actually noticed, I tweeted out, I think it was yesterday, New York Times had a roundtable discussion on the Avengers and on Marvel films.
Okay.
And A.O. Scott was pretty critical about it, where he basically said none of the movies is totally satisfying, because they don't want them to be totally satisfying, because they want you to each movie's a trailer for the next movie. It's just basically like feeding into the desire that's never satiated, where you just keep going to these films, and they're decent films as far as those things go, but maybe they're not great cinema. I think that's sort of, and I think I'm glad somebody is carrying that banner, because I think there's some truth to that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Although I quite enjoy the movies, but
not all of them, and they're not all. There's some I'll for sure never watch again. I won't even watch Endgame again. It's 3 hours long. I'll never watch it again. I won't. I promise to never watch it again.
Okay, not even on a plane ride somewhere. If you're on a plane going somewhere, 3-hour flight.
Well,
we'll see.
There's lots of movies in the world. And usually on a flight is where you can look, in the Air Canada flights too. Let you choose Canadian cinema.
Oh, there you go.
Where you can click on that and go like, what have I missed?
There you go.
What's going on? So we'll see.
Yeah, I hope that. I mean, for me, Star Wars, I was okay with it coming out every year. I didn't mind it so much. Again, we both kind of choose to enjoy this stuff rather than get down on it. We're not so negative as other fans are. But I do. Although I'll be fair, I have not rewatched Solo.
Oh, I have.
I have not rewatched that since the
initial
time we watched it in the theater. I've only seen it once, and I don't know why. I have not gotten around to watching it again. I just haven't had a chance or thought about it. Other things are coming up. There's lots of stuff to watch right now. It's really like we're just kind of an embarrassment of riches as far as content goes. So yeah, I have not done it. Not even on Star Wars Day. Not even on May the 4th, which was last Saturday.
Well, now I usually every summer I would watch the then 6 existing Star Wars films in a row, because in summer is the perfect time to do that.
Yeah.
And now it's harder to do with.
Well, now you have to break it up, right? So you do 3 and 3 and 3. You could do that. That's what you can do. But now we have the 2 extra. You spend a day watching the anthology films, and do the Ewoks films count as anthology films?
No, they don't.
Come on.
They don't.
No?
Nah.
Battle for Endor? Come on.
Nah, they don't count for much.
Anyway,
little baby in a smock, or whatever that is.
I don't know.
There's something weird going on there.
I still enjoy these films. I'm very much looking forward to this last one. I think it's going to be awesome. I think it's a good idea that they're pulling back, and it's going to make it more desirable for us to watch. And in the meantime, you're right, there's still going to be plenty of content on Disney Plus. There's The Mandalorian. There's whatever the Diego Luna series is with what's his face from Rogue One. So we are going to still
Cassian Andor.
Yeah, Cassian Andor. So we're still going to see a lot of content, even though they're not going to be in the movies, and I think that's fine.
I think that's fine too, and I don't think there's anything wrong with looking at the new era of Star Wars with a critical eye, which I think every fan should do. Like one of the things that bugs me online are the fans who are just it must all be good or must all be crap, basically, and those two sides going at it all the time. And I think there's a nice middle ground where there's elements that you like and there's things that you don't like. Like for me, the thing that I keep coming back to is this sort of reduction in time for R2-D2 in the new era of films, where he was our hero. He was like the guy. He was the one that got things done when no one else could get things done. And in the modern trilogy, there hasn't really been a lot of room for him.
I would argue that BB-8 has not taken his place.
No, not really.
Not in the way that R2-D2 used to save the day. BB-8 is not saving the day.
No.
Right?
And what I always said is BB-8 looks like a bomb. So maybe in the last episode, he just rolls in and kaboom, and that's it.
No.
And we're like, he did save the day. Where'd he go? Oh, he's dead. But there's some things like that. I think it's okay to point that out.
Yeah.
To go like,
doesn't mean you hate Star Wars.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't mean that. But you can take a step back and look at it and go, all right, if I were to have made these films, what would I have done that they didn't do, and what wouldn't I have done that they did do? And I think if you look at it that way, there's things that I think I wouldn't have done that they did that they got right, and there's vice versa. So It's kind of fun. I sort of like that. I like taking a step back. That's for me just part of fandom.
I'm going over to that stove and getting me some more soup. Whatever you do, you stay right where you are.
So we did celebrate Star Wars Day last Saturday. May the 4th be with you.
Yes.
Also coincided with Free Comic Book Day, which was kind of cool. So it was a good day for nerddom out there. Did you do anything special for Star Wars Day?
No, I just tweeted that Yoda picture that my students made.
Oh, of you? Yeah. Yoda? Yeah. That's awesome.
They made that because they hate me, as I
know
out.
which one student made that.
That's right.
That's right. Let's not name her on this podcast.
No. They hate me, so they do things like that sometimes. They Photoshop my face onto Star Wars characters.
That's your in my phone. That's the contact picture of you now.
I
put that as your picture. When you text me, I see your phone.
I went all in on it on the weekend. I was like, if you're ever gonna do it, and it was also good that Star Wars Day was on a Saturday. That was kind of nice.
Yes, that was good.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I kind of think it's an arbitrary. It's kind of like the Valentine's Day of Star Wars fandom, because it's not really, doesn't mean anything other than the pun, May the 4th be with you, right? And so it doesn't really hold any meaning to me. More important day, in my opinion, is May 25th, which is the actual anniversary of the release of Star Wars, and that's coming up in a couple of weeks, and it's going to be the 42nd anniversary of Star Wars.
It was June in Canada, in Winnipeg,
right.
Anyway.
Yes, of course. Another similar date. Actually, I'm going to look this up 1 second. Hold on. Oh, coming up very soon. Okay, so this is May 19th. Which is coming up next week, is the 20th anniversary of The Phantom Menace.
Oh, that's crazy.
20 years ago. Can you believe that?
I can't. Yeah.
I still remember very, very clearly going to the theater and watching that.
Seems like just yesterday I was skipping work.
I didn't. I booked it off. I worked at Blockbuster Video at the time in Edmonton, and I booked it off. We've told our Phantom Menace stories.
Ask for
podcast.
Forgiveness, not permission. Right. That's what I say. Show up late for work and go, I don't know what happened.
But yeah, that was kind of my first experience of like going to see a movie multiple times. There were people who would just go to the movie over and over and over again in the theaters. And I went to see it at the West Edmonton Mall in one of the screenings, and there were people there who just like were hanging out in the food court between screenings and then going back in dressed like Obi-Wan Kenobi and stuff like that. So 20th anniversary, are they doing anything special for this at all? Or do you know if they're going to
I don't know.
Release a special edition?
See, I was one of those people who subscribed to Star Wars Insider magazine, so I got a free pass to go see the preview screen.
You went to that with Pablo, didn't you?
That's right, and Pablo was on my bus. It was not organized that way, but Pablo Hidalgo himself from the Star Wars Story Group was on the bus, and there was some guy who was quizzing us, I remember, on the way home, and he was like, maybe on the drunk side, let's just say. And like that's what you get on the buses here in Winnipeg and maybe elsewhere.
To a Star Wars screening? Oh, come on.
No, he was not part. He.
Oh, it was just on the bus.
Okay. I was on the bus on the way home.
I get it.
Pablo and I happened
on the public bus.
Yes, so we happened to be on the same bus. And this guy's on there, and he's like, well, how's the movie? Does Luke die? Like, he was like that guy, and he's like drunk and asking questions. And I said, what are you, Mr. Curious? I said to him as a joke, and he goes, better than being Mr. Bi-Curious. Am I right, people? And he was like, shouts to the, yeah, I still remember that. Showed it to the bus. And I looked at Pablo, and he looked at me, and that's when he decided to move the hell out of Winnipeg and go to San Francisco. Never saw him again.
Until last year.
But yeah, I remember that very clearly. And I also remember saying to Pablo, I don't know how I feel about that movie.
Yeah.
That was my first sense of like, this film isn't as good as the other ones. And I remember Pablo was like, I love it. I just love Star Wars.
Yeah, again, I'm so happy that someone like that is working for Star Wars.
Yeah.
Because he has a super huge passion for it, and he does. I don't think obviously they want to make money with these, but they're not going to make money if they keep making crappy movies, right? And I think that was kind of. Like, if the trend that started with The Phantom Menace and continued through that prequel trilogy had continued, then I don't think Star Wars would be where it was. So it's a really good thing that they took that break between that trilogy and this new one.
Yeah.
Obviously, they were never going to do anymore, right? They said that wasn't going to happen anymore until Disney bought the company, but taking a break is a good thing.
Yeah.
And refocusing and ensuring the quality is high. Like, like you said, those Marvel films, I would say they're all good. None of them are bad.
They're
except for the Incredible Hulk.
Well, let me think for a second. I really didn't like the first Ant-Man. There's some I like the second one just fine, but is there
a bad Star Wars movie? Yes.
Yeah, but in Avengers, it is a more consistent level of blandness, I will say.
Oh, well, they want to play it safe, right?
Right. That's right. That's what I mean by that. It's a play it safe. Those are movies that play it safe more often than not. Though I think maybe some of the ones that stand out in my mind are the ones that didn't, like Thor Ragnarok and the first Iron Man movie, and that kind of went further afield than the others.
Sure, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
and Guardians of the Galaxy is another example of that.
I like that movie very, very much. Part 1 I thought was really good.
I like part 2.
But overall, it's consistent, but you're right, playing it safe.
So do you think that's what they're doing with Star Wars? Are they playing it safe?
No, they're not, as Last Jedi proved.
Yes.
The reason, why do you think everybody lost their shit? and part of it is because of that, because the film-going nerd audience has been taught by Marvel to accept a certain level of bland entertainment, and we won't let you down. We will deliver that bland entertainment. That sounds mean, but I don't mean it that way.
Right.
But we'll a reliable, let's call it that instead of bland, a reliable kind of entertainment where we're not going to ask you to go too far in either direction here, and you will enjoy it to a certain extent, and then another one will come, and then we'll give you a trailer in the credits, and then you will come back and see the next one. And it's been very successful. But I think Last Jedi, Rian Johnson made it clear that he wanted to defy expectations, and even in the trailer.
Yeah, and he did that.
Where Luke said, this isn't going to go the way you think it will, and it didn't.
Yeah.
And as a result, it created conflict online and sort of the perception that the new Star Wars era is good. I think it's that simple.
It isn't good?
I think there's a general, after the last movie, after The Last Jedi, and then the perceived sort of failure of Solo. I don't think Solo was that much of a failure.
I disagree. I disagree. I think this article but
the perception is that it was.
Yeah, because it didn't do as well in the box office, but it's a good movie. Mm-hmm. And it was maybe people blame it on the release date. It was too soon after the last one. It also had to go up against Infinity War, which was in theaters at the same time. So there's a lot of factors there, but I thought it was good. It's up there. It's a solid movie for me. It is like maybe it was a bit safe. Solo, like that one may have played it a bit safe.
Yes and no. I thought there was lots of funny, like there's a shower scene, for instance, and things like that you just would never expect to see in a Star Wars movie, and it was fun.
Yeah,
I thought overall I found it to be a delight, and the references to other Star Wars canon was great. Like, I don't know, I still get a kick out of that film.
I have to watch it again. I really should.
But I think a lot of, I don't know, like I think the perception of Star Wars is that the fandom's divided now.
Oh, it is, for sure. And it's so interesting to me because 20 years ago when The Phantom Menace came out, it wasn't. It didn't feel divided at all.
No.
Even though a lot of us didn't like that movie.
We were confused by it. It took us 15 viewings to kind of go, all right.
Took me 3 viewings, but okay. But yeah, I certainly walked out of that movie going, that was awesome, and then had to come back to it later on and realize that it wasn't.
But even the effects were a big leap forward.
And now they look dated.
Yes, that's right. But at the time, it was like, wow, what's going on here? Like the pod race and like all of that stuff. It was like, and people were just like hanging on every. Like, this is important. It's a Star Wars movie. You got to pay attention to this thing.
And the merchandising, the marketing was like, we'd never seen that before around Star Wars, the marketing juggernaut that came from that. And, I remember, so I want to talk about some positives. I always harp on the Phantom Menace, but in the light of its, celebrating its 20th anniversary, let's talk about some of our favorite moments from the Phantom Menace that maybe we haven't talked about before.
Well, the lightsaber battle is one of the best ones.
It is absolutely the
if
best.
not the best.
I think it is the best lightsaber battle we've ever seen in a Star Wars film. That is, and the music is incredible.
Oh,
the
John Williams, you can't go wrong.
Like the whole scene of Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon against Darth Maul is amazing. Qui-Gon Jinn, Liam Neeson was really good. Like I'll give him his. He did the best he could. I think him and Ewan McGregor were both struggling to kind of get around the green screen thing that they had to work with, because that was also pretty new at the time. These days, every time you see a behind-the-scenes shot of those Avengers movies, it's all green screen. They're all shot like that now, but back then, it was very unusual to shoot almost an entire movie on green screen like that. But I was always kind of disappointed that we never saw more of Qui-Gon and anything else.
I think we will.
Oh, well, we'll see. We'll see.
If our Ghosts prediction comes to pass.
The other thing I really enjoyed about it, I remember the first thing that blew me away about that film as I was watching it is seeing the Jedi, seeing Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon like zip around super fast and jump super and people later criticize it saying, what, the Jedi are superheroes now? And I'm like, yes, they are. That's exactly what the Force allows them to do. They can do incredible things, and that's always what George Lucas had in mind for them. He wasn't able to convey that with the special effects he had in the 80s when he made the original films. But I really loved seeing the Jedi able to do that kind of stuff. That was so cool. And then out of that came the Force push and moving things around and the ease at which that came. I mean, what took Luke forever. Remember when Luke's trying to lift up the X-Wing and he can't do it, and then Yoda's just like, boom, up, no problem. That's what that is. It was very, very cool. So that's another part of that film I enjoy. I like the pod race. I think it's fun.
Yeah, I like the pod race too.
It's a fun.
Although it always, once again, I always wished that it were Anakin couldn't control the Force, and it would help. And times it would help him, times it would work against him. But a lot of his victory in that is like, whoops, I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
What's going on? You could make the argument that the Force did all that, but it was positioned as he was like Jar Jar Binks, Anakin, a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, and even when he like crash lands on the thing, and he's like, "Whoop, didn't want to do that. That sucks."
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that going on where I think they could have taken the opportunity to make it a bit darker.
One thing that JJ did really well with The Force Awakens is I mean, I don't know if this is him or maybe the sound designers, but they created that sound that comes with using the Force. It's like this. It's hard to explain what it is, but it's just like this hum or something. You feel it. And that whenever like in the scene where Rey is like controlling Daniel Craig's Stormtrooper character with Jedi mind trick, you feel it, and that's something that it conveys the use of the Force really, really well. So something along those lines would have been good to show that he was using the Force.
Yeah,
because it really doesn't look like he's using the Force in that scene.
No, and I don't think he's supposed to be.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think so.
I thought it was that's the only reason he can pilot a pod is because he can use the Force.
Well, they basically say we did the blood test. Remember, we did the blood test, and look at these midichlorians. Can you believe it? The suggestion is that it's a genetic. Remember they say he's the only human who can pilot a pod
because he's got the use of the Force.
Because his midichlorian counts as high. I don't believe there's any sense that he can use the Force at that point.
Oh, I think it is. I think there is.
It just means. Has the blood test been done already at that point?
Yes,
or is that
with
the ladies' chick.
We're gonna get into the midichlorians. We're talking about the positives of this movie, not the negatives. The midichlorians.
All I remember is Qui-Gon takes out a ladies' chick.
Yeah,
and he talks.
No, Obi-Wan does. No, Qui-Gon does.
Qui-Gon does. And he talks into the ladies' chick, and and then what happens next? I don't know.
What is? How does he take the blood anyway? I don't even know. Is there like a needle on that thing, or?
Well, isn't there? I can't remember now. Well, what's going to happen is you're going to watch it again
Yeah.
this summer.
Yeah.
And then you'll remind us how
But I think that I think what the idea is that the midichlorians are just an indicator of the Force, not the cause of the Force. That is the argument that they put forward, or that's the justification of it. It's like midichlorians are like, you have high midichlorians means that you're a strong Force user. That doesn't cause you to be a Force.
What I remember is that was one of the first things that created Star Wars fandom to lose their mind.
Yeah, there was
online.
a bit of that.
Online.
In the very early days of the internet, that truly did divide people. Although I don't know if it divided people, as we all were pretty universal in our hatred of, we don't need to explain this, right? Like, you don't need to explain this mysterious Force. It just happens, and we all accepted that in the first trilogy. So let's just continue that. You know what I mean? So there was that as well. Okay, we're focusing on the positive here. Positives. Anything else?
Let me think for a second. I like the Jedi Council. I like the people on the Jedi Council.
Yeah.
I like that whole thing. The thing that weighs down that stuff is a lot of talking.
Can't.
So,
okay, I think we should end it.
No.
Let's end this discussion. We can't get it.
No, there's still, you know what I'm saying? Like the
There's
backdrop,
a lot of talking, yes.
There's a backdrop, there's the great music. And by the way, the music is something that I noticed in Avengers as not being as good.
You're right. Absolutely right.
As like,
no.
Like I heard some people going, that Avengers theme is now iconic. And I was like, no, I don't think it is. I don't think it's as... Sure, we now recognize it as a musical logo that goes with those films. But, I mean, in comparison to anything John Williams has done, it does not have the depth.
And it took like 10 years of films to do that. Like however many movies we had with that Avengers theme. And by the way, that's just the main theme of it. There's a different theme playing during the big battle, and you don't recognize that music. They changed it up too much. And meanwhile, John Williams is able to kind of tie his stuff all together really, really well.
Like anybody could do, okay, Star Wars theme, Superman theme, Close Encounters theme. Like everybody knows those songs or those themes by John Williams. But you could go up to anyone and go, what's Ant-Man's theme? Like, nobody would know.
Nobody knows.
No.
And also the sound design is excellent. The sound design really blew me away, although I know we can't hear sound in space. That's something that we just, but when you hear the like the sound of the pods and even the like, clearly it's like George Lucas's love of hot rods kind of coming through.
Oh, yeah.
They all kind of sound like old hot rods, but it's cool. It's a cool sound. I always enjoyed that part of the film, for sure.
And I always remember the biggest laugh in the film was the Tusken Raider taking pot shots at the
at the pods.
At the pods.
Yeah.
But I think it was also people were starving for anything
familiar
that harked back to the original trilogy. They were hungry for it.
Yeah, it was so weird.
It was pretty subversive for them to do that movie the way they did.
Ironically, even though the first third of the film takes place on Tatooine, which is where we are introduced to this whole thing in the first movie, it did not feel like Tatooine. I thought Jakku felt more like Tatooine than it did in the Phantom Menace.
Because in many ways it was like a reboot.
Yeah, that was
of A New Hope.
So
I think that was intentional. I believe it was.
So let's all watch the Phantom Menace on May 19th.
Oh boy.
To do it, I will. You know what? I'll do it. I'll watch it. I'll tweet it.
Once I start, I can't stop watching Star Wars movies.
Well, is that right?
Oh yeah. Once I'm in, I'm in. That's the thing. I try to hold off.
So that's the gateway drug, and then you're like, you just keep watching.
Pretty much.
Really?
Well, because you kind of get in the zone. Like one year, I made a list of actually the good, the bad, and the ugly. I remember. I think I wrote a blog post about it, where I went through all at the time. I think it was just 6 movies at the time, and I made I categorized it. What's good about each movie, what sucks, and the ugly, what's the absolute shittiest of crap in every Star Wars movie. And every Star Wars movie has something in it where you're like, I don't know about this. Like it's got something. So even like the classics, like A New Hope or Empire Strikes Back, you can point to certain things that, I don't know about this or I don't know about that. So I watched them all the way through, and then I wrote a blog post about what's great and what sucks. So as I say, it's part of being a fan is to know it inside and out. And I actually wrote at the same time I wrote an article for the Winnipeg Free Press on the bloopers and things that go wrong in the Star Wars series, and I submitted it. And I still remember the entertainment editor at the time was like, I don't think this is of interest to a big general audience. That's what he said, and I was like, okay. So I just published it on my blog, I think at the time.
That's funny.
But he didn't. He took a pass on it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's funny. There was just Cinema Sins. They do the movie sins countdown.
Yeah.
On YouTube, and they just recently released an episode. Everything wrong with episode Star Wars: A New Hope, episode 4, and with a guest voice of Kevin Smith. So going through all the things that are wrong with it. It's fun. It's for comedy, right? It's really, really funny. It's interesting to take a look at it with a critical eye. I will watch it. I will watch it on the 19th. I don't even know what day of the week that is. That's 10 days from now. It's a Sunday the 19th. I will watch The Phantom Menace. It's a nice Sunday afternoon, and I'll live tweet during the viewing to let people know what I think. And so
that sounds like fun.
You can follow me at
what time will you start?
Let me think here. Probably 2-ish. I'm trying to think. I work until noon. Just trying to work out my schedule. I'll figure it out. I'll tweet. Anyway, follow me at Dan Vadabonker or follow the @nerds_podcast Twitter account, and I'll have more information there. But I'm going to do that on the 20th anniversary of The Phantom Menace.
Cool.
I think it's worth revisiting.
I have a bad feeling about this.
I don't sense anything.
We were also mentioned the new movies, and what do you think? Are those Rian Johnson's trilogy? Or are those the Game of Thrones guys trilogy? Or are those alternating?
Who knows?
Trilogies?
No, there's no way of knowing. Alternating, no. I think they're going to focus on one at a time every 2 years. And so it's going to be, which one did they announce first? Rian Johnson. So it's going to be Rian Johnson's.
And did you notice this week Rian Johnson tweeted a picture of Pablo Hidalgo as Thanos? Did you see that?
No.
Okay, I won't spoil it. Go back and have a look.
Okay,
it's pretty sweet.
That's
but
good.
that when I saw that, I was like, they're working on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They had
Pablo
reason.
just wiped out a bunch of his stuff with probably a single comment of what does he say what it is?
Then Pablo retweeted it, and all I'll say is he said, "I run things in this town." I think, which by the way, I believe that was the Henry Armstrong tagline in Winnipeg.
That's right.
So
yes.
I think, yeah,
It's a callback.
Deep cut from Pablo.
Excellent. Peter Mayhew passed away last week, and I don't want to say it was a surprise. He was, 72, which is, that's not.
He's a tall man.
Yeah,
big man.
We knew he was having health problems. Obviously, he was able to reprise the role in The Force Awakens for certain shots, but then after that, they turned it over to the new guy, and he's been playing Chewbacca ever since. And so, yeah, it's really tough. It was, a lot of people remembering him. A number of people. He came here for a Comic-Con a number of years ago. Did you meet him?
Yeah, I did. I met him. I got him to sign my. I tweeted out a picture, but it's the Ralph McQuarrie concept Chewie.
Oh yeah,
that doesn't really look like Chewie.
Well,
I
the
got
one
him to
that
sign that figure.
They based the character in Rebels
right.
on that guy. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So I got him to sign that, and I tweeted out a picture of that. But he was one of those guys when I was a kid. They had the cards that you could buy, the Topps cards, and so I was like, oh my god, there's a guy like in the Chewie costume. Oh my god, this is crazy. So when I actually met him at Comic-Con, it was one of those ones where I was too shy to really say too much. Right. I said hello to him or something, and he signed the thing, but it was like it was one of those where I just seen so many photos of him as a kid in the role that it was like I was a bit overwhelmed to say anything to the guy.
Okay, yeah.
But and once again, gentle giant is what everybody calls him.
Many people said he was a very, very nice person and great. Just embraced the fandom and loved doing it. And I don't think we've heard it talk about some of the people involved in the costume aspect, because his face isn't in the movie, right? So we don't see him as himself. But people like he seemed to have more personality than even, like, for example, Boba Fett or anybody else who doesn't have a lot of lines, who kind of just sits there and is.
Well, somebody tweeted, it might have been Mark Hamill, said his eyes appeared in every film.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's right. And he always had the black makeup around his eyes to kind of hide it. But yeah, you're right. They were his real eyes, and he made the noises. He did do the Wookiee roar, which is really hard to do.
Yeah.
And so yeah, he was Chewbacca in every part of the.
Well, Harrison Ford issued that very nice statement. Did you see that?
I didn't see that.
Oh, it's worth looking up. I'm not paraphrasing; it won't do it justice. But it was like very heartfelt, very nice remembrance of Peter Mayhew by Harrison Ford. And Harrison Ford isn't a guy who tweets out. He doesn't tweet at all, as a matter of fact. But he's not somebody who you associate with mawkish sentiment. But he clearly felt. Very moved by his friendship with Peter Mayhew.
Right. Yeah, I think that was something that they spend a lot of time on screen together in all those films. So, Yeah. Anyway, sorry to see him go, and
Yeah, and after Carrie Fisher, and we're sort of
I saw a photo of a picture of the original cast, and they showed the passed away people were blacked out, were black and white. So they had Carrie Fisher, who played R2D2 again,
Kenny Baker,
and Peter Mayhew. And I think it was just Luke and Han were the only two in color in that photo. So, yeah,
brutal.
Yeah, it's part of life.
Yeah, but also it's always seems like a shock when it's like your childhood heroes. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
Lately, I've been looking up like famous film stars and when they've passed away and stuff. And someone like Gene Kelly, who we were alive when Gene Kelly was alive, and it's hard to believe that now. Like when you look at Singing in the Rain, you're like,
yeah, but you didn't hear anything about him later in his life. There were a lot of famous people.
Yeah, he was in Xanadu with Olivia Newton-John. like there's things like that where you kind of you don't quite understand time and space when you're a kid. And then as you get older, you're like, oh shit, how old were they when they were in this movie? And what was that? Like every once in a while, when I want to feel depressed, I look at when rock and roll stars released albums, how old they were, and you just wow. It's like David Bowie was 20 when he released this, or you're like, oh my god. Like as you get older, you start to appreciate those milestones more.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's going to do it for this episode. Anything else you want to add before we?
No, well, one of these days we're gonna have her talk about who's Skywalker and the rise of Skywalker.
Yeah,
we'll do that soon.
We got lots of time to talk about that.
There's lots of suspects.
The usual.
That's the problem. That's
the
right.
usual suspects? No. The unusual suspects.
Yeah, very unusual.
All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the Star Wars Nerds. I'm Dan Vadabunker.
I'm Kenton Larson. Don't let the Force hit you in the ass.
Now I am the master.
I'm taking an awful risk, Vader. This had better work.
Where did you dig up that old fossil?
That's no moon.
Now I